Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to DCC Today. Happy Wednesday to you. We're going to start off with another Ross Hamilton photo today. And this is a picture I think Ross took out at the Salt Creek Tributary. I love that area out there. So, Ross, thanks for sending that. I told you Monday that there are some changes coming, specifically to this program, DCC Today. And in fact, this program, as we have it right now, is going to end on December 18th. That's an upcoming Friday. We've been noticing over the past number of weeks that the viewership has gone down. The number of photos being sent in have gone down, and that's all just fine. We knew when this program started way back at the beginning of the lockdown, what was that, last March, that it was going to have a lifespan. We never thought it was going to last this long. But of course, there are a lot of things this year that we didn't think were going to last as long as they have. But we feel like this program has fulfilled its purpose. It's been a lot of fun to do, and I know many of you have enjoyed it. But we feel like the time has come to make a change. So we're going to be doing that. And also, we're at a point where right here at the end of the year with Christmas and New Year's and everything going on around it, our staff is needing a bit of a break as we have other things we have to tend to. So December 18th, we're going to wrap it up for this program, but we're going to restart on January 7th with a little bit different plan. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a live stream program, probably about a 10-15 minute program, somewhat similar to this, that will air once a week on Thursday mornings. And that will give myself or another one of the staff a chance to come on and keep you up to date with the latest things that are going on. And then also on Thursday, but Thursday evening, we're going to do more of a deep dive program. That will be pre-recorded, and we will rotate that among the staff, myself, Pastor Sean, Pastor Britt, Darren Sweeney, our youth director. We will take turns, one of us each week, digging into different areas of our ministry and maybe interviewing some folks. It'll be a more open-ended program, but I think it will help you just have a better sense of all that's going on at DCC and getting questions answered, things like that. So starting January 7th, in the morning it'll be live, and in the evening it'll be the dive. So 10 a.m. in the morning with the live stream, 7 o'clock that evening with the deep dive program, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Don't forget, as we talked about on Sunday, I want you to develop for the year ahead your Thanksgiving plan. How are you going to use your time, your treasure, and your talents? And I want to say thank you to all of you who have already sent your plans in. I encouraged you on Sunday to write these things down. You know, be conscious about what you're planning to do in the year ahead. And I'd love to see what you come up with. So if you haven't done it yet, I hope you'll write it down and just email it to me. I'd like to see what you all are coming up with. Also, don't forget about the We Care coupon project, picking up those coupons to give to merchants when you make your Christmas purchases this year. Really encouraging all of us to purchase locally from our small merchants and help them through this season. And then the Advent Conspiracy Project, a specific way that as a church we want to bless both some local organizations and local ministries that are helping our community, as well as continuing to help the ministry of Living Water International. And if you haven't given to that yet, go online to dcchurch.org, click on the Advent Conspiracy banner, and you can mark down there what you'd like to give. And we want to surprise all of these organizations with just a very generous demonstration of love through our giving. So I encourage you to do that. Devotional thought for today comes out of Psalm 103, verses 8 and 9. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love. He will not always chide, nor will he keep his anger forever. I was thinking about that attribute of God, how he doesn't hold on to his anger, he forgives. And I came across a reflection from C.S. Lewis, a book he wrote called Reflections on the Psalms. And he talks about the other side of that, how so often we do hold on to those things. And I thought I would just share with you Lewis's thoughts. Did we pretend to be angry about one thing when we knew or could have known that our anger had a different and much less presentable cause? Did we pretend to be hurt in our sensitive and tender feelings when envy, ungratified vanity, or thwarted self-will was our real trouble? Such tactics often succeed. The other parties give in. They give in not because they don't know what is really wrong with us, but because they have long known it only too well. It needs surgery, which they know we will never face. And so we win by cheating. But the unfairness is deeply felt. Indeed, what is commonly called sensitiveness is the most powerful engine of domestic tyranny, sometimes a lifelong tyranny. That's kind of challenging, isn't it? Are there ways that I cheat by being sensitive about things, by holding on to grudges and forcing other people to give in to me because they know that I'm not really willing to do the hard work of dealing with my own heart? The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love. He does not keep his anger forever. May God grant us the strength and the personal insight to be more like that. Well, Jennifer, who do you have for an interview today?
Hello, everyone. Our guests today on DCC Today are Paul and Linda Wessler. And Paul has joined us in the past to talk a little bit about Godspeed, I think, and also when they both helped in the soup kitchen. Paul talked a little bit about that. But today they are coming together as a couple just to tell us a little bit about their personal background and their life. So I'm going to send it maybe to Paul first. Maybe you can tell us where you grew up and what your house was like growing up and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you. I grew up in Vancouver, Washington, down by Portland. We call it the other Vancouver or the original Vancouver.
Okay.
Anyway, I grew up there and then went to the University of Washington in Seattle and ended up living on Vashon Island for a number of years before I went to Bible school in California in the late 70s.
Okay. And how about growing up in your house? Were you raised in a Christian home, or kind of when did you feel
Yes,
like
I was.
You were? Okay.
My mom was a devout Christian. My father was probably not, but a very moral man. And we had an honest household with integrity. So I had three sisters younger than I am. I'm the oldest. And we all grew up and went to church, and I accepted the Lord, not sure the date, probably around 9 years old.
Okay.
In a little tiny Southern Baptist church.
Okay. Well, how about you, Linda? Tell us a little bit about your household and your life growing up.
I grew up in Half Moon Bay in the coast of California, about 30 miles south of San Francisco. I have three sisters and one brother. And our household was not Christian. We went to church, but we really didn't know Christ. So yeah, I just, kind of a crazy childhood. And
yeah. And so when did you feel like maybe you actually came to know the Lord? Did it happen later for you in life, or?
I did. When I was 11, we were still attending church, and I asked to be baptized at 11. But, I probably didn't really know what that meant at that time. So, because I didn't, in my teenage years, I didn't I was not walking with Christ. And so, and I did not, ask Jesus to come into my life again until I was an adult. So.
Okay. Well, maybe that leads us into, how did you two meet each other?
I worked in the bank next door to where Paul had his pharmacy. And that's how I knew him.
Okay. So let's maybe back up to careers then. Paul, what did you do for a living?
Well, I graduated from pharmacy school at the University of Washington in 1967. So I practiced as a hospital pharmacist for 10 years in the Seattle area for the Veterans Administration. And then I went to Bible school at Peninsula Bible Church in Palo Alto. But then I went back into my career and I owned independent community pharmacies in the small counties up in the Sierra foothills. Okay. And did that for 30 years.
Okay. And so you guys were next door neighbor. And what did you do, Linda, for a living?
I actually was in banking until Paul and I got married. And then about 2 years after we were married, he needed help in his pharmacy. So I actually went to work there and then proceeded to get my pharmacy technician's license.
Okay.
And that's what I did until we retired.
Okay. And so so you two worked side by side in different offices when you met each other, or how did you actually come in contact with each other?
I would go next door.
He banked where?
And have her balance my checkbook for me.
Okay, because you couldn't do that on your own.
I didn't like to do that.
Okay. So banking excuses became a reason to go next door, right?
Yes, exactly, right.
Okay. And do you two have children together, or what are the dynamics of your family?
No children together. I have 2 boys.
And I have a daughter and a son.
Okay.
And our children are fully adults, and some of them have families of their own.
Okay.
Her boys live in Missouri, and my daughter lives in Doha, Qatar, near Saudi Arabia.
Wow. Okay. So far away. And any grandchildren?
6 between us.
Wow.
6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so I've had the pleasure of being to your home, which is amazing, by the way. And tell us so you guys definitely have some, I call them hobbies. I don't know if you do or not, but you definitely have gardening in your blood. So maybe tell us a little bit about your interest with that.
Well, I was raised in an agricultural home, so there was always an interest in plants and growing your food, canning your food, preserving your food. So that's why I garden. Plus, I like to have a beautiful place to come home to and to look at. So that takes a little more work than I realized it would. It's kind of taking up some time in my retirement, which maybe I would like to be using my other interest and be getting busy with photography.
Oh,
so Linda bought me an expensive camera a year ago, and I still haven't committed to the time it takes to get to know how to use it right. Okay. Now, Linda has a very interesting hobby.
Yeah, tell us about your hobby.
Interesting. I'm a quilter, so.
You are an amazing quilter, actually. We've seen some of your work. Yeah.
So, yeah, I love doing it. So.
And when did you start learning how to quilt? Like, when did you start getting into that?
I've always sewn. My mother was a professional seamstress. And so I've always sewn since I was probably about 13. And I quilted a little bit in my 20s. But then, things got with the kids and going to work, and I just didn't have the time to do it. And I did not start it again until about 2003. So.
Yeah. So now the two of you also like to do a lot of traveling, I believe. And so maybe you could tell us a little bit about some of your I think you each have favorite destinations. So maybe you could tell us about your favorite travel destinations.
Okay. I'll let Linda go first.
Okay.
I actually have two favorites, and I couldn't choose between the two. Italy, the back roads of Italy.
Okay.
We had just such a wonderful experience there. The small towns, the people who spoke no English, the walled cities, the aqueducts that were in ruins, of course, and it was just, we had such a wonderful time there. And then my second favorite is our river cruise that we took from Budapest to Amsterdam. The history of that area and just the architecture, the people, it was just a fantastic trip.
Okay. How about you, Paul?
I have two favorites, but really only one real favorite. We did go to Turkey a little over a year ago with a group from DCC, and being in the places where the Apostle Paul set foot, seeing the cities that he wrote about and preached to, that was very moving and very educational. But as far as favorite, that's got to be my number two. My number one is my safari trip with a missionary friend in Botswana, Africa, about 20 years ago. Riding around in the top of a Jeep, taking pictures of lions and elephants and giraffes and things like that. That was just absolutely my all-time favorite.
Yeah, that's like a once in a lifetime kind of trip.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Wow, you guys have been very blessed to be all over the world, literally. That's awesome.
That's true.
We have been, yes.
So what led you guys to Littletown Squim and to DCC from all over the world?
Well, my grandparents homesteaded out at Lake Ozette on the very west end of Clallam County, and my dad grew up out there. So I knew about the area. Also, when I was in college in the 60s, they first started to build Sunland, and they were advertising on TV about all the sun in Squim. So when I wanted to take my California girl back to Washington State, I thought I'd better take her to the sunniest place in Washington, in Western Washington.
Yeah.
That's why.
How did that work out for you, Linda?
Well, it works out. I mean, it works out okay. I love the coast because I grew up, on the coast. I have to be truthful and say the winters are a little trying for me because it's dark and gray for so long. But I'm adjusting better. And then, of course, he has graciously consented to take me to Hawaii every year in the winter. So
okay. See, I can do that. That would work. Okay. Well, I think my last question was maybe just go over just real briefly what ministries you guys are involved in here at the church.
Well, I think probably I got started first in being in ministry, and I was working with Wayne in the men's ministry for about 5 years. And after that, Linda got involved in coffee and cookies after church. And then we both did that together. And then she got asked to manage that. And so we kept doing it together until COVID hit.
Right.
And we cooked for newcomers.
We do newcomers.
Did newcomers luncheons. And so now we're kind of involved working with Sean in adult ministries. And I was shortly kind of fascinated with Godspeed, which some of you who are watching may know what that is. I still am interested in the concepts of that. It's been, I think, difficult for us in America to figure out how to make that applicable to our culture and our place and time. But the principles of Godspeed and slowing down and getting to know your neighbors and having fellowship and knowing people is really high on my priority list.
Yeah, and I believe that kind of did that get interrupted when COVID hit, where you guys were sort of partway into it, I think?
Yes, that's correct. So there was no real time to bring people together and ask about application, because it was over instantaneously, and that's too bad. But maybe we can revisit that in the future.
Absolutely.
It's still a good concept, and still a good thing to boost our fellowship. And so that's kind of why we're interested now in helping Sean with a life group organization, and helping life groups get started, and hosting again. So we're enjoying that a lot.
Yeah, Sean is doing a great job of just trying to, this is a difficult time to be in charge of life groups, because it's hard with all the restrictions and things, and how to safely meet and maintain those restrictions. But well, I really appreciate you guys being willing to come and share a little bit about your personal life with us today, kind of seeing a different side of the Wesslers. So thank you. And I think Paul has said he would lead us out in prayer today, so I will let you do that.
Sure, glad to do that. Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for being in a place where we can fellowship with our believers, other believers, and in a church that is adapting and being willing to use technology to communicate with people. We're so grateful for our leaders and for our church, and we thank you for your grace and mercy in this time. We ask your blessing upon all that DCC is doing for the Lord. Amen.
Amen. Great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Jennifer.
Well, thanks for joining us. I'll be back here again Friday morning, and until then, be blessed.